Hello and welcome back to our journey through the scriptures. In our last video, we left the children of Israel at the border of the promised land, mourning the death of their great leader Moses. Now, a new chapter unfolds. A new leader will rise, and the people will finally enter the land they have so long dreamed of. This is the story of courage, conquest, and the fulfillment of a divine promise. This is the book of Joshua. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, the divine call came to Joshua, Moses' minister. The Lord said, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, to the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, I have given to you, as I said to Moses. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you, nor forsake you. Be strong and of a good courage." Strengthened by this promise, Joshua commanded the people to prepare. Within 3 days they would cross the Jordan. He reminded the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh of their pledge to fight alongside their brethren before returning to their own lands east of the river. They answered with one voice, "All that you command us, we will do. Just as we hearkened to Moses in all things, so will we hearken to you. Only the Lord your God be with you, as he was with Moses." To scout the way, Joshua sent 2 spies secretly to Jericho. They found refuge in the house of a woman named Rahab, whose house was built upon the city wall. When the king of Jericho sent men to capture them, Rahab hid them on her roof among stalks of flax. She told the king's men that the spies had already left at dusk, sending them on a fruitless chase. Then she went to the spies and confessed her faith. "I know that the Lord has given you the land," she said. "We have heard how he dried up the Red Sea and what you did to the kings of the Amorites. Our hearts melted with fear." She pleaded with them to spare her and her family when Israel took the city. The men swore an oath to her. "Our life for yours," they promised. "When we come into the land, you shall bind this line of scarlet thread in the window through which you let us down. Bring your family into your house, and whoever is with you shall be safe." She let them down by a cord through the window, and they escaped to the mountains, hiding for 3 days before returning to Joshua. Their report was filled with confidence. "Truly the Lord has delivered all the land into our hands, for all the inhabitants of the country are faint because of us." 3 days later, Joshua rose early, and all of Israel moved from Shittim to the banks of the Jordan. The command was given, "When you see the Ark of the Covenant borne by the priests, you shall follow it. But leave a space, about 2,000 cubits, so you may know the way." Then Joshua said to the people, "Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you." The next day, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant walked toward the Jordan, which at that time of harvest was overflowing its banks. As soon as the soles of their feet touched the water's edge, the waters flowing down from above stood still, rising up in a heap far away, and the waters flowing down to the sea were completely cut off. The people crossed over on dry ground, right opposite Jericho. The priests stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan until every last Israelite had passed. To commemorate this miracle, the Lord commanded Joshua to take 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, one for each tribe, and set them up as a memorial in Gilgal, their first camp in the promised land. "When your children ask in time to come, 'What do these stones mean?' Joshua instructed. "You shall let them know that Israel came over this Jordan on dry land." When the priests finally came up out of the riverbed, the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and flowed over all its banks as before. The kings of the Amorites and the Canaanites heard of this, and their hearts melted. There was no spirit in them anymore because of the children of Israel. At Gilgal, the Lord commanded that the new generation, born in the wilderness, be circumcised, rolling away the reproach of Egypt. There they celebrated the Passover, and on the day after the Passover, the manna, the bread from heaven that had sustained them for 40 years, ceased. For the first time, they ate the produce of the land as Canaan. As Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing before him with a drawn sword. Joshua went to him and asked, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" "No," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Joshua fell on his face in worship, and the commander of the Lord's host told him, "Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy." Jericho was tightly shut up. No one went out and no one came in. The Lord gave Joshua a strange battle plan. For 6 days, the army was to march around the city once each day, with 7 priests blowing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day, they were to march around the city 7 times, and at the end, the priests would sound a long blast on the trumpets. When the people heard it, they were to shout with a great shout. They did exactly as commanded. For 6 days, they circled the city in silence, the only sound being the tramp of feet and the blast of the 7 trumpets. On the 7th day, they rose at dawn and circled the city 7 times, and at the 7th time, when the priests blew the trumpets, Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." The people raised a mighty shout, and the wall fell down flat. Every man charged straight ahead, and they took the city. They utterly destroyed everything in it, man and woman, young and old, ox, sheep, and donkey, with the edge of the sword, as the city had been devoted to the Lord for destruction. But they spared Rahab and all her family, bringing them out to safety as the spies had promised. They burned the city with fire, but the silver, gold, and vessels of bronze and iron were put into the treasury of the Lord. But a shadow fell upon the victory. One man, Achan of the tribe of Judah, trespassed by taking some of the devoted things. Israel did not know this, and Joshua sent about 3,000 men to attack the small city of Ai. But they were routed, and about 36 Israelites were killed. The hearts of the people melted and became like water. Joshua fell on his face before the ark, crying out to God. The Lord's response was stern. "Get up. Why have you fallen on your face? Israel has sinned. They have taken some of the devoted things. Therefore the people of Israel cannot stand before their enemies. I will be with you no more, unless you destroy the devoted things from among you." The next morning, the people were brought forward by tribes, then clans, then families, then man by man. The lot fell on Achan. Joshua said, "My son, give glory to the Lord God of Israel, and tell me what you have done." Achan confessed, "Truly I have sinned. When I saw among the spoils a beautiful cloak from Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver, and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, then I coveted them and took them. And see, they are hidden in the earth inside my tent." Joshua sent messengers who ran to the tent and found the stolen goods. They brought them and laid them before the Lord. Then Joshua and all Israel with him took Achan, his family, his livestock, and all that he had to the valley of Achor. Joshua said, "Why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you this day." And all Israel stoned him and his family with stones, and burned them with fire, raising a great heap of stones over them. Then the Lord's fierce anger turned away. With the sin purged, the Lord told Joshua not to fear. This time, he was to take the whole army and set an ambush behind Ai. Joshua set 30,000 men in ambush by night. The next day, he and the main army approached the city. When the men of Ai came out to fight, the Israelites pretended to be beaten and fled toward the wilderness, drawing the entire army of Ai out of the city, leaving it undefended. At the Lord's command, Joshua stretched out the javelin that was in his hand toward the city. The men in ambush rose quickly, rushed into the city, captured it, and set it on fire. When the men of Ai looked back, they saw the smoke of their city ascending to heaven. Trapped between the main Israelite army and a force that had taken the city, they were utterly destroyed. Not a man remained or escaped. The king of Ai was captured and hanged on a tree until evening. News of the fall of Jericho and Ai spread. The kings of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, and others gathered to fight against Joshua and Israel with one accord. But the inhabitants of Gibeon chose a different path. They resorted to deception. They took worn-out sacks, old, torn, and mended wineskins, and put on old, patched sandals and ragged clothes. Their bread was dry and crumbly. They went to the camp at Gilgal and said to Joshua, "We have come from a distant country. Now make a treaty with us." They showed their provisions as proof of their long journey. The leaders of Israel were deceived. They examined their provisions, but did not ask for counsel from the Lord. So Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the congregation swore an oath to them. 3 days later, the Israelites learned the truth. The Gibeonites were their neighbors, living right in the midst of the land they were to possess. Though the congregation grumbled, the leaders stood by their oath. "We have sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel," they said. "We cannot touch them." Instead, Joshua cursed them to be perpetual servants, woodcutters and water carriers for the house of God. When Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Gibeon had made peace with Israel, he and 4 other Amorite kings of Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon joined forces and attacked Gibeon. The men of Gibeon sent an urgent plea to Joshua at Gilgal. "Do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us." Joshua and his entire army marched all night from Gilgal. The Lord threw the 5 kings into a panic before Israel, who defeated them in a great slaughter at Gibeon. As the Amorites fled, the Lord hurled large hailstones from heaven on them, and more died from the hailstones than from the swords of the Israelites. On that day, as the battle raged, Joshua spoke to the Lord in the sight of all Israel, "Sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Aijalon." And the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation had taken vengeance on its enemies. There has been no day like it before or since, when the Lord listened to the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. The 5 kings fled and hid in a cave at Makkedah. Joshua ordered the cave sealed with large stones, and had men guard it while the army continued to pursue the enemy. After the slaughter, they returned to the cave. Joshua had the kings brought out. He summoned the commanders of his army and said, "Come near. Put your feet on the necks of these kings." And they did so. "Do not be afraid or dismayed. Be strong and courageous," Joshua told them. "For thus the Lord will do to all your enemies against whom you fight." Afterward, Joshua struck and killed the 5 kings and hanged them on 5 trees. This victory was the turning point in the southern campaign. Joshua swept through the region, conquering city after city: Makkedah, Libnah, Lachish, Gezah, Eglon, Hebron, Debir. He conquered the entire southern country, from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and all the land of Goshen. He took all these kings and their land at one time because the Lord God of Israel fought for Israel. But the war was not over. Jabin, king of Hazor, a powerful city in the north, heard of Israel's victories and formed a massive northern coalition. Kings from the mountains, the plains, and the valleys gathered their armies, a multitude as numerous as the sand on the seashore, with very many horses and chariots. They encamped together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. The Lord told Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them, for tomorrow at this time I will give them all over to Israel, slain." Joshua and his army came upon them suddenly and attacked. The Lord gave the northern armies into the hand of Israel, who struck them down and chased them, leaving none remaining. Joshua returned, took Hazor, the head of all those kingdoms, and burned it with fire. He captured all the other cities and their kings, destroying them as Moses had commanded. So Joshua took the whole land, from the hill country to the southern desert, from the plains to the mountains. He defeated 31 kings in all, and the land had rest from war. Now Joshua was old and advanced in years. The Lord said to him, "You are old, and there remains yet very much land to be possessed." He commanded Joshua to divide the land as an inheritance for the 9.5 tribes who had not yet received their portion. The tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh had already received their inheritance east of the Jordan from Moses. The tribe of Levi received no inheritance of land. Their inheritance was the Lord God of Israel himself. So at Shiloh, where the tabernacle was now set up, Joshua, Eleazar the priest, and the heads of the tribes distributed the land west of the Jordan by lot. Caleb, Joshua's old companion in faith, came forward. Now 85 years old, he declared, "I am still as strong today as I was the day Moses sent me out. Give me this hill country of which the Lord spoke, for the Anakim are there, with great and fortified cities. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall drive them out." Joshua blessed him and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. Lots were cast for each tribe, meticulously defining their borders and listing their cities. Judah received its portion in the south. The children of Joseph, the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, received their inheritance in the central hill country. Then the 7 remaining tribes, Benjamin, Simeon, Zebulun, Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and Dan, sent out men to survey the rest of the land, which was then divided among them by lot before the Lord in Shiloh. Finally, the children of Israel gave an inheritance to Joshua among them. According to the command of the Lord, they gave him the city he asked for, Timnath-Serah in the hill country of Ephraim. So they finished dividing the land. The Lord then commanded Joshua to designate cities of refuge as he had spoken through Moses, so that anyone who killed a person unintentionally could flee there from the avenger of blood. 6 cities were appointed, spread throughout the land on both sides of the Jordan. Following this, the Levites came forward and requested the cities and pasture lands that the Lord had promised them. So from the inheritance of the other tribes, 48 cities with their pasture lands were given to the Levites by lot. And so the Lord gave to Israel all the land that he had sworn to give to their fathers. They took possession of it and settled there. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to the house of Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled. With the land conquered and divided, Joshua called the warriors of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. He commended them for their faithfulness in fighting alongside their brothers, and blessed them as they prepared to return to their homes and families east of the Jordan. But as they reached the border, they built a large, imposing altar by the Jordan. When the other tribes heard of it, they were furious, fearing this was an act of rebellion, a turning away from the Lord to a separate worship. The whole congregation gathered at Shiloh to go to war against them. Cooler heads prevailed, and they first sent a delegation led by Phinehas, the son of the priest Eleazar, to confront them. "What is this breach of faith that you have committed against the God of Israel?" they demanded, reminding them of the disaster at Peor and the sin of Achan. The eastern tribes were aghast at the accusation. "The Lord, God of gods, he knows," they answered. "If this has been in rebellion or in breach of faith against the Lord, do not spare us this day. We did it out of fear that in time to come your children might say to our children, 'What have you to do with the Lord God of Israel?' This altar is not for burnt offering or for sacrifice, but is a witness between us and you that the Lord is God." When Phinehas and the leaders heard this, they were pleased. The threat of civil war vanished, and the Israelites blessed God. A long time passed. Joshua, now very old, summoned all of Israel, their elders, heads, judges, and officers. In a farewell address, he reminded them of all the Lord had done, fighting for them and giving them the land. He charged them to be courageous, to keep the law of Moses, and to cling to the Lord their God. He warned them severely against turning to the gods of the nations remaining in the land. "If you do," he said, "they will be a snare and a trap to you. Until you perish from this good land, you know in your hearts and souls," he declared, "that not one thing has failed of all the good things that the Lord your God promised concerning you. All have come to pass." Then Joshua gathered all the tribes to Shechem for one final covenant renewal. He recounted God's faithfulness, from calling Abraham to their deliverance from Egypt and their victories in the Promised Land. Then he laid down a challenge. "Now therefore fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in truth. Put away the gods your fathers served, and choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." The people responded with a resounding commitment. "Far be it from us that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods. For it is the Lord our God who brought us out of Egypt. Therefore we also will serve the Lord, for he is our God." Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God, and he took a large stone and set it up under the oak that was by the sanctuary of the Lord. "Behold," he said to all the people, "this stone shall be a witness against us, for it has heard all the words of the Lord that he spoke to us. Therefore it shall be a witness against you, lest you deal falsely with your God." After these things, Joshua, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. And Israel served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived him and had known all the work that the Lord had done for Israel. The bones of Joseph, carried all the way from Egypt, were finally buried at Shechem. And Eleazar, the son of Aaron, also died and was buried. A generation had passed, a promise had been fulfilled, and the land, at last, had rest.